I'm Teisha with Shalom TV's news update for Monday, March the 10th, 2014. A Palestinian man was killed today after he attempted to seize an IDF soldier's rifle. The incident occurred near the Allenby border crossing between Israel and Jordan this morning. According to the IDF, the man attacked one of the soldiers at the crossing and tried to take his weapon. That is when other soldiers nearby reacted and shot the man, who has been identified by the Palestinian Authority as 38-year-old Raid Ala Eldin Zaiter. The IDF is checking those reports of the man's identity. Palestinian media reports that Zaiter was born in the West Bank but worked in Jordan as a civil court judge in the Hashemite Kingdom and held a Jordanian passport. Ynet reports that an initial investigation into the incident found that Zaiter got off a bus with a group of Palestinians at the border crossing and ran towards the IDF soldiers, yelling Allahu Akbar, God is great in Arabic, which is often yelled by terrorists at the time of an attack, and tried to grab a weapon from one of the soldiers, and that the other soldiers at the crossing shot at Zaiter's legs, which is according to protocol, to try and stop him, but that Zaiter then tried to choke the soldier and was then shot dead. The man responsible for the bombing of a bus in Tel Aviv in 2012 that wounded 26 people was sentenced today to 25 years in prison. Mohammed Abel El Jaffer Nasser Madfarja had signed a plea bargain deal this past December, which enabled him to avoid a life sentence. As you may recall, Madfarja boarded a crowded bus back in December of 2012 during Operation Pillar of Defense. The bus was traveling from Ramat Gan to Tel Aviv. He was carrying a bomb, which he then activated, left it on a seat, and got off. Moments later, the bus exploded, wounding 26 people. The plea bargain was agreed to by the court because of Madfarja's young age at the time of the incident. He was 17, and claims by his defense that he was being pressured by others and didn't fully understand the consequences of his actions. The cache of weapons seized by the Israeli Navy aboard an Iranian ship last week was viewed today by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other Israeli officials in the Israeli southern port city of Eilat. Netanyahu, along with Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon, Deputy Chief of Staff Major General Gadi Eisenkot, and Navy Commander Vice Admiral Ram Rotenberg, took part in a tour of the weapons the IDF said were being smuggled on board the ship to Gaza. The Israeli Navy intercepted the Class C near the port of Sudan last week. Israel's engineering corps found 40 M302 rockets with a range of between 90 to 160 kilometers hidden in crates on board the ship, as well as 181 mortar shells and approximately 400,000 caliber rounds. IDF spokesperson Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner said the mortar rounds had been made in Iran. The weapons arsenal was presented at a news conference at a naval base in Eilat this afternoon, local time, where the Prime Minister said that the IDF seizure not only prevented the weapons from getting to Gaza, but served to, quote, expose the true face of Iran, which was behind it. The Jerusalem Post reports that the Arab League expressed its support for Palestinian refusal to recognize Israel as a Jewish state. Arab foreign ministers said in a statement in Cairo yesterday that the Council of the Arab League confirms its support for the Palestinian leadership in its effort to end the Israeli occupation over Palestinian lands, and emphasizes its rejection of recognizing Israel as a, quote, Jewish state. Recognizing Israel as a Jewish state is a core demand by Israel in any peace deal, and likely will also appear in the framework deal that U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is set to present to Israel and the Palestinians next month. Arab League Chief Nabil El-Arabi said that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's demand for recognition goes beyond the framework of the negotiations, and that there was no need to accept this Israeli position. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas is set to meet with Secretary of State Kerry as well as with President Obama at the White House a week from today to discuss peace efforts and the Kerry framework deal. And staying with the Secretary of State, John Kerry called on Iran today to cooperate with the U.S. regarding the safe return of Jewish American Robert Levinson. Levinson, who is now 66, disappeared 7 years ago in Iran, and Kerry said he is considered the longest-held American citizen in history. Kerry said Levinson, who is a former FBI agent, was on a private business trip when he disappeared from the Kish Island in the Islamic Republic. Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif denied that Levinson was being held under government auspices in a statement that he made this past December. Marking the 7th year of Levinson's disappearance, Secretary Kerry said today the United States remains committed to the safe return of Mr. Levinson to his family. He said, "We appreciate the support and assistance from our international partners as we work to end this awful separation. Given Mr. Levinson's health, age, and length of time in captivity, we mark this anniversary with a special sense of urgency." The FBI announced a $1 million reward for any information leading to Levinson's safe return. Israeli tourists on board a cruise ship were not allowed to disembark at a stop in the port of Tunis yesterday. Haaretz reports that the approximately 20 Israelis who were on board the Norwegian cruise line ship Norwegian Jade were barred from the Tunis stop, being told quietly by the ship's staff that they were not welcome by the Tunisian government. Jewish passengers on board who were not Israeli were allowed to disembark. A Jewish Canadian passenger on the ship told Haaretz that at first, no one knew the Israelis were denied entry because, quote, the ship kept it a secret. He said they only found out because some of them had become friendly with some of the Israelis on board. The man who wished to remain anonymous said that they had met with the ship's captain and told him that he was making a political statement by not allowing the Israelis to leave the ship, and that the captain said it was out of his hands. The man said that a handful of the Jewish non-Israeli passengers decided to remain on board. According to a report in Al Jaminer, B'nai B'rith Canada issued a statement criticizing Norwegian Cruise Line for failing to notify passengers ahead of time that they were not welcome on Tunisian soil by the government. The Tunisia stop was part of the original cruise package. B'nai B'rith Canada's CEO Frank Diamond said in a statement, the cruise line had a responsibility to its passengers and advised them of this discriminatory policy in advance. He said better still, the cruise line should avoid ports that have such policies. The U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv announced today that the United States Department of Defense signed an agreement with Israel to continue support of the production of the Iron Dome battery weapon defense system and for the purchase of additional defense batteries. The Department of Defense said that the agreement is of benefit to both Israel and the U.S., with Israel receiving funds and resources for its defense and also providing many co-production opportunities for the Iron Dome components from U.S. industry.
Tradition!
The Associated Press reports that beloved Jewish musical Fiddler on the Roof is coming back to Broadway. Producers Jeffrey Richards and Jerry Frankel announced late last week that they are bringing the 5th revival of the Tony Award-winning show, which debuted in 1964 and is based on the stories of Shalom Aleichem, back to the Broadway stage in the fall of 2015. Casting has not been announced yet, however, Tony winner Bartlett Sher will direct. And turning to our Shalom TV programming for tonight, Monday, March the 10th, director Bartlett Sher will talk about his current show on the Great White Way at a night with the stars of Broadway's The Bridges of Madison County. That's from the 92nd Street Y, with the show's stars Kelly O'Hara and Stephen Pasquale. That's tonight at 10. Earlier tonight at 7, more coverage from the recent AIPAC Annual Policy Conference with remarks from AIPAC Executive Director Howard Kaur and also from Senator Joe Lieberman. Then at 9 o'clock on L'Chaim, Mark Golub is joined by American Jewish Committee's Director of International Interreligious Affairs, Rabbi David Rosen, who talks about Jewish relations with the Vatican and interfaith affairs in general. That's all coming up tonight here on Shalom TV and ShalomTV.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Monday, March the 10th, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader.